So, in terms of today's agenda, we will be introducing ourselves. I'm sure most of you know us by now, but just a recap about our numbers and kind of what makes us in a great position to deliver this solution for you. Then we'll also go through the importance of getting your prospectus right before print, so the risks and rewards of the prospectus. Then we're going to go through describing the methodology of the Vote and Tell product. It's actually a market research product. Thank you so much. Amy's just put the agenda up. So we will go through the exact methodology of Vote and Tell so you understand what happens with that as a solution. Then we'll also talk about the process of working with us, what's it like to work with us and what you could expect from the Vote and Tell process. We'll recap with some key takeaways at the end, and then we'll leave some time for a Q&A so that you can ask us any questions. And obviously we're happy to continue conversations with you after the webinar via email. Right, I'm going to go and let these ladies continue. Have a great session, guys. Bye.
Hi, I'm Barbara Bradshaw, Senior Market Research Consultant at the Student Room. I've been working in market research and insight for more than 15 years, and 12 of these were client side as a Senior Market Insight Officer at a university, and I'll be leading on Vote and Tell.
Hi, I'm Amii Lanham. I'm the Commercial Operations Director at Student Room. I'm responsible for commercial products and client delivery at TSR. Prior to TSR, I worked in automotive marketing, predominantly in CRM and client services. And then this is Marissa, who has already introduced herself earlier on. So we'll talk to you a little bit about TSR in numbers. So as the UK's largest education site, with over 10 million users a month, it gives us an unparalleled ability to be able to test and learn at scale. But as you know, it's not always about scale, it's about what the audience is made up of. And this is where the true power of the Student Room comes into play. The scale creates diversity, and this diversity creates highly targetable and addressable sub-audiences that are still absolutely huge. So whether you want to test your prospectus for an international audience, fine. We've got 4.5 million users a year from outside the UK, or postgraduate, brilliant. We've got 1.9 million users using our postgraduate forums each year. If you want to test how your prospectus will land with young people interested in your competitors, our forum structure and data architecture allows us to identify these users and bring them into the research accordingly. So yeah, TSR is huge, but it's what that scale allows us to do in terms of identifying the right audiences that is so important.
So risk and reward. To begin with, here's some background on what prompted us to focus our first Vote and Tell sessions on prospectus design. As I'm sure you all know, prospectuses are a rite of passage for prospective students. They've always been a key part of higher education marketing. They're more historical and more cultural than any other marketing tools. And in recent times, there have been various efforts to reduce or eliminate prospectuses altogether, usually because of waste or budget and challenges improving return on investment. However, the debate still goes on, and prospectuses are still a central theme in UCAS fairs and HE exhibitions when we're allowed to have them again. Students expect prospectuses as part of their cultural experience of researching universities. They are a rite of passage for university applicants, and they create meaningful connections with university brands. Bond & Coin are a design agency who specialise in HE, and they've got this to say. So the prospectus is a cornerstone of university marketing. Despite the rise of digital and increased attention on websites and social media content, it remains evident that university audiences still expect something tangible. And from the Student Room's own options research with prospective undergraduates in years 11 to 13, 85% had used prospectuses as part of their decision making when applying to university. So they are wanted and expected. And now we've got some numbers behind prospectus development. So 1,000 is the typical number of hours that an HE team can spend delivering a prospectus before it even goes to print. It takes around 9 months to develop a prospectus, and that's not including any hiccups in the planning process. 30 to 50k is the average print cost for a university prospectus, but in some cases these costs can be as high as £100,000. And 24 is the number of students typically involved in testing a prospectus in traditional focus groups, and these are often current students of the university. Many of you may be familiar with BELMONT Press. They're one of the leading printers of university prospectuses, and they were kind enough to provide us with lots of helpful facts and figures. And this is completely anonymised, so if you're from one of the universities that works with Belmont, don't worry, we're not talking about you specifically. But what they've seen is that their clients, as a collective, spend £1.5 million a year on printing prospectuses alone. In terms of all print for university material that their clients spend with them, the total is £3.2 million. And the average spend for a client in any 1 year on a prospectus is between £30,000 and £50,000. And they've also very kindly provided some helpful tips. These don't relate directly to Vote and Tell, but as you hear, you may benefit from their advice. So they've said it's important that universities talk to them as early as possible in the process. They said that sometimes there's a misconception that you need to have the finalised design before having those conversations with print, but clients may be able to save a lot of money and time if they get in touch early in the design process to discuss pagination and size. And on a similar vein, getting in touch early can mean that they're able to get better deals on paper, which again can help keep the costs down. So thank you to Belmont Press for all these facts and for the tips. And I think the main takeaway from this section is that the prospectus is really important to prospective students and at universities, and you want to make sure you're getting your testing correct. The front cover really is key. So at HE fairs and careers libraries and sixth form common rooms, when your prospectus is on a shelf or in a pile next to all the others, the front cover can make a difference in whether prospective students pick up your prospectus and then go on to consider your university or not. Capturing the attention, interest and imagination of the student is the first hurdle. The front cover is the most illustrative opportunity to communicate your brand. It isn't passive, it works for your university by attracting and aligning with prospective students. And many things can be communicated by your front cover alone, including brand alignment, ethos, experience, celebration of your strengths and teaching methods, your students, your core values. How do you want your university to be perceived? And what do you want potential students to understand about you? So the key takeaways, the return on investment on good quality prospectus testing is high. 85% of students use prospectuses as part of their decision-making process. Thousands of hours and thousands of pounds contribute to each prospectus cycle, and start talking to your printers early in the creative process to save time and money and headaches. I'll now just move on to the Vote and Tell methodology. So we conduct the Vote and Tell research with members of the student room community. These are prospective students, so for example, 2021 or 2022 entry students. And we know that often to keep costs down, prospective testing is conducted with current students, but a drawback of that is they know your university and the application process too well. Our 2021 entry respondents are already researching universities, so prospectuses are really relevant to them right now and in the coming months, and they're familiar with them and know what to expect. So they can give measured feedback from an applicant's perspective. And we can also access 2022 entry students, allowing you the opportunity to test your 2022 creative with your 2022 students. And while they may be in the very, very early stages of research, they're a really interesting audience to speak to because they aren't familiar with universities or prospectuses yet, and they don't have preconceived expectations. Our audience is independent of your institution, so that reduces the risk of any false positives from an already warm to you audience. It means you aren't putting any extra pressure on your email traffic in front of your inquirers or applicant CRM database, and you're not sending 2022 concepts to inquirers and applicants, which could confuse the messages from your 2021 campaign. We'll also get honest feedback. They aren't your applicants, they aren't worried about offending you or trying to make a good impression. Qualitative research and focus groups are great to get depth of feedback needed to inform decision making. And while they do give great insight into concept testing, they can be open to challenge because regardless of how big the qualitative sample is, it's not enough to give the hard response, the hard percentages, which senior leaders often require to give them confidence in their choice. Vote and Tell gives the robust sample size that you need to say X% of 200 respondents chose option A. And while we say we'll achieve a minimum response of 200 respondents, we do expect to get a larger response than this. But we do also explore qualitatively too, to give you that depth of understanding. And we know that sourcing our audience from the student room community, we get really rich qualitative feedback. We get the quant numbers that you need to make your decisions, and we support that with the depth and insight to inform design. We use a tried and tested set of questions. We've developed these over time using pilot studies to get the best possible responses. Up to 3 front covers can be tested, and these can be whatever you choose. So they can be 3 completely different concepts, or they can be one concept with different images, colors, or supporting text. We'll ask for initial impressions of each design, and that's where we'll establish whether prospective students would pick up the prospectus at an HE fair or in a common room or careers library. And we'll then poll them to establish their favourite. So this gives you the quant numbers and percents to support your decision making. We also ask why they've chosen their favourite, and this gives us the insight into what works over one over another. We analyse the feedback for each, so you can make your decisions confidently, and so you understand what motivated their selection and what was it that didn't resonate with the other options. As well as the tried and tested question set, you have the opportunity to ask up to 2 additional closed questions. These can relate specifically to your campaign, for example, testing different headline options or supporting text, or you can ask something else entirely. So what do they expect to see in a prospectus? What are their preferred communication methods with universities? Anything really. We can use question text that you provide or support you in writing questions if required. So just before I hand over to Amii, who's going to explain more about the process, to sum up the key takeaways. The vote and tell audience is prospective students, and that can be 2021 or 2022 entry. We use a quantitative questionnaire with strong qualitative elements to explore the why, as well as providing the numbers you need to make confident choices. And you get honest feedback from prospective students without having to use your own contacts. Plus we can include those bespoke questions tailored to your campaign.
Thanks, Babs. So I'm going to run you through the process. So as marketers, you'll know better than most the importance of a good brief. As with any activity, from planning a media campaign to researching your prospectus front cover, a robust and detailed brief is paramount. And that's why with Vote and Tell, we place such importance on the briefing phase and ensure we've got a full brief prior to booking in the research. So this ensures that we have a thorough understanding of your requirements and can deliver an accurate and effective and timely experience. The thoroughness and level of service is also why we cap the number of clients who can run Vote and Tell to 5, allowing us to provide a premium experience to our partners. So before your campaign is signed off, your account manager would work with you to complete our briefing document. This would then be sent across to you to expand upon, and you'd have 1 week to do that. It'll then come across to our insight division to appraise it and sign it off, or feedback if appropriate. And at that point, you'd be ready to send RIO and your campaign is ready to go. So this is the timeline here. So week 1 is planning and scripting. The first step is that you'd receive a call from a researcher who'd brief you on the whole process, run through that briefing form that I mentioned previously, make sure that everything is clear and defined, all of your requirements are correct, and we're good to go. You can then submit up to 3 creatives to us for testing. We'll then get busy writing your questions, ready for the final sign-off at the end of that week. And it's worth noting that we offer 2 rounds of amends to the questions in order to keep to our rigid timelines. So it's super important that you make sure you've got the right people involved in the process early to keep it on track. Then week 2 to 4 is fieldwork analysis and reporting. So we contact our students to get the results that you need. Then your data is analysed and formulated for you into an easy to read and insightful report. And then on delivery of that report, we arrange a call with you to present the results and, if we can, our recommendations. So finally, and most importantly, allowing you to deliver to your VC clear, tangible evidence on how your work will lead to an impactful prospectus, which you can say with confidence will resonate with your prospective students. So the key takeaways from this is, despite everything and the trends for digital prospectuses, the Greta effect and a larger global focus on sustainability, there's still a real need for a printed prospectus. So 85% of students still using them to help their decision around their university choice. It's important to get these right. As such, thousands of hours and pounds are spent on each prospectus cycle, which means robust and effective testing is vital for return on investment. And it's important that your front cover has the ability to cut through the noise. We work with huge sample sizes compared to just traditional focus groups. We work with prospective students who are independent of your establishment. We work with highly engaged students in a virtual environment to keep them safe. And you will understand the why as well as the what and the how. Thank you very much for joining us. We've now got some time for some questions and answers. So if we have a look at the questions we got. So the associated costs, it's £6,000. And then you're asking, have any universities have a good example of a prospectus in the past, perhaps?
Yeah, I think there's lots of good good examples of different university prospectuses. There's all sorts of award-winning ones, and I guess the main thing is that they resonate with your students. Different universities are trying to achieve different things by their prospectus covers. So there's a great example for one university wouldn't necessarily be brilliant for another university. So there's lots of different things, but I can look at there's awards and things, and I can look at some facts and figures for you and get back to you on that.
And then Alice has asked, when's the deadline for using the service? So we will start doing this in September. So come to us in August, and we'll make sure that the brief is ready for us to start beginning of September. Do we have any other questions? Anything else anyone would like to know?
Hi guys. Somebody has previously asked if the slides for this would be available, and usually we just send a video, but just to let you know, we will make the slides of this available so that they will be coming out as well. So just to respond to whoever asked that question, I can send out, you know, a PDF too. Well, that's really short on questions. I hope that you've had all the information you need. If not, just feel free to drop us an email at hello@thestudentroom.com. This has been a great session. It's wonderful to learn about this new process. Thank you so much, guys.